is on mental health. We talked to Ms Madonna, Ms Sam, and Ms Chisholm about self-care, seeking counselors, and LGBTQ plus awareness. We also have a skit to represent how easy it is to seek help from counselors.
Good morning, Falcons. I am Ashley here with
Jabria
and Ms Madonna.
Today we're going to be doing an interview with Ms Madonna. We have a few questions for you.
How do you make students feel comfortable with talking to you?
That is a great question. So I do something called rapport building, and what that means is I get to know the students a little bit. So when I talk to them, I try to get to know kind of their interests and things to make them feel trusted, validated, and comfortable in the office space.
Do you give them anything to make them, say if they're going through an anxiety attack, do you give them anything to comfort them?
Yes, I do. So I have in my office a few fidgets. I have some stress balls and other sensory toys like Play-Doh. I also have coloring. I also sometimes play meditation. So a lot of different things and strategies that I utilize so that way students feel comfortable.
When students come to you about issues, are those conversations kept between you and the student?
Anything that a student says to me is in confidence. There are only a few objections to that. That would be if the student says that they are going to hurt themselves. If a student says that somebody is going to hurt them, they give me permission to tell the student. And actually, I think that's it. So just those three things. But other than that, everything else is kept in confidence, just me and the student.
Okay, I get the whole hurting part, but what if they still don't want you to tell? Are you still gonna tell?
I am a mandated reporter, so when it comes to hurting, it has to be if they're in danger, and I do screenings for that. So if they are presenting with things like suicidal ideation, that's something that I do have to report, or if someone is actively hurting them, that is something that I again have to report, and that is for their own safety.
What are some ways people can start self-care and self-love?
So self-care is something very important. And one of the things that I think people get confused about with self-care is I feel like a lot of people think self-care starts when you're feeling very overwhelmed and you're like, I have to do self-care. Self-care and self-love is an everyday thing. It's so important to set aside maybe even 5-10 minutes or even up to an hour. So self-care also looks different for everyone. So for example, I like to do self-care such as reading and coloring because that's what I like to do and what makes me happy. But for different students, it might look different. Some students might like reading, or some students might like listening to music or podcasts. And, it's important to utilize those tools to help. And that's going to also help with self-love and being kind to ourselves.
What is some advice you give students that are struggling with stress and anxiety?
So when it comes to stress and anxiety, I like to specifically get to the root problem of the stress and anxiety. For different students, it's different stuff. Some students might have stress and anxiety surrounding school, some might be social issues, and some might be pressures at home. So it's important for me to really understand what's happening for them. Then we work together and come up with a plan. So for students, if it's school related, sometimes I work out scheduling things, getting them connected with tutors and things like that.
But what if somebody don't know they have an anxiety attack? Because not everybody know if they're going through something.
Right.
What are the signs?
When it comes to anxiety, sometimes for students it feels like their heart's racing really fast. They feel very overwhelmed. Some students might get very emotional and they might start tearing up. Some students might completely shut down. They feel fidgety and overall just feel very panicked.
What are some ways we could contact you?
If it is not that urgent, of course, you can always schedule an appointment with me, either email or I have a Calendly link. However, if it is an emergency, you can always ask your teacher for a pass and come down.
Hi, Mia. I'm Ms Petrie. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. You won't tell anyone about this, right?
No, everything we talk about is confidential. The only time I step outside of confidentiality is if you were gonna hurt yourself or seriously hurt someone else.
Well, I've been getting bullied by some other kids. It makes me not want to come to school, and when I'm here, I feel sad and nervous about what people are going to say.
Oh, I'm really sorry that's happening, Mia. It's really understandable. I'm really glad that you can identify your feelings too and feel them. A lot of the time people try and turn away from their feelings or push them down.
Which only makes things worse.
Exactly.
Hey son, I've been seeing Ms Petrie twice a week, and I'm trying to be more calm.
Wait, really? That's amazing, Mia. How did you decide to talk to her?
One of my teachers said talking to her will help the problem. Guess what? I haven't thought about it in a few days.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you're happier now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sam. You can call me Miss Sam. I am the sex educator here, the sex and reproductive health educator here. I'm here on Mondays all day from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., on Thursday mornings from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., and then all day on Fridays from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what I do here. So I am available to you students for anything you may need about any questions about sexual and reproductive health, any questions about abstinence, anything when you need like resources, whether that be condoms, whether that be STI testing or pregnancy testing. I'm here for basically just like open conversation about sex, which is something that we don't do very often, and it's quite uncomfortable at times. But it's really important to know that if you don't ask these questions and if you don't get these answers, a lot of the time there's a lot of room for some mistakes and some unfortunately irresponsible decisions, which is why I'm here. I want to help you make those responsible decisions so you're able to explore and do what you need to do in life safely, responsibly, comfortably, and in the way that works best for you in your life. I'm also here to support with any sexuality questions, gender identity questions, anything like that. If you're interested in going on birth control, I can also help you with that. And ladies, just so you know, you don't necessarily need your parents' approval to go on birth control. So if you're ever interested in learning more about that, that's what I'm here for. But yeah, if you ever have any questions or you just want to come in and chat with me and just learn more about this crazy, crazy world of sexual health, that's what I'm here for. Come on in. You can text me or call me to make an appointment. My number is 267-602-4202. And yeah, you can also just walk into the nurse's office. I'm all the way to the back on the left. And just come hang out with me. I have a really cute office. It's really fun in here. We just like to hang out. So yeah, come on in anytime. Thanks so much.
Okay, so my name is Yahaira, this is Evelyn and Sanaya, and we're here with
Ms Chisholm.
Ms Chisholm. Okay, we're going to talk about LGBTQ.
First question. Is sexuality a difficult topic to discuss?
Well, it depends on who I'm talking to and who, yes, it's always, because it's very personal, it's very private. So aside from whether you are gay or straight or questioning, sexuality is a very personal thing. So yes, I think it's always kind of a tender conversation.
Mm-hmm. Question 2. How do you feel if a family member were to come out?
Well, how have I felt? Because I have many family members who have come out. My own children, my sister. When one of my children came out to me, I have to say I was actually really excited for him because I know the gay community in Philadelphia, and it's a gorgeous place to be. So it's not always an easy path to get there, but once you're there, it's creative and honest and diverse, and I just was excited for him.
Mm-hmm. Question 3. If people joked about being gay, how would you react from another person's point of view?
In my classroom, I shut it down really quickly because I know how damaging the words faggot and dyke and lesbian, they are damaging to everybody, not just people who are LGBTQ, not just people who are questioning. Those jokes and those words are meant to keep us all in line. Like, you act like a girl, you act like a boy, right? And it's limiting to anybody. Mm-hmm. And it's just mean, and it's not funny, and it's ignorant. So.
Question 4. What's your sexuality, and are you open about it?
I identify as bi. Most of my relationships in the last decades have been with men. So, I think at this point I feel more straight than anything, but it's a big world, so.
Question 5. Do you think that being a supporter of the LGBTQ community is wrong, or in other words, concerning?
Do I think it's wrong to support human beings to be who they are? Is that the question? No.
How about if in other people's point of view?
I mean, I think that there are intersections, right? I teach a lot of students, all of my students are immigrant students, and some come from cultures that are very traditional, that, and also there are language barriers. So those conversations are harder because I'm stepping into cultures that are not my own, right? And using language, it's harder to find the language. So I'm more careful in those relationships about how I talk about those things. But my primary job is to support my students for exactly who they are, regardless of where they're from, regardless of their language, right?
Last question. Do you believe parents in this day and age would accept their children as LGBTQ and others as well?
It depends on the parent. Right? It really depends on who we're talking about. I think it is much more accepting now than it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And I think if you decide to have children, it will be so exciting how different it will be then, right? A huge change I have seen is to see LGBTQ people parent. Right? And so we have a whole generation of children growing up in families that they're like, oh yeah, those are my dads, right? Those are my moms. And it's just, that's just completely part of the normal world. And that, if you had told me that when I was 17, I would have been like, no way. But my children, they know, they have friends whose parents are gay, and that's just completely how the world works for them.
Well, thank you for answering our questions for this interview.
Oh, I'm so excited to meet you all. It's really fun. It's really fun. I'm looking forward to it. So.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That'll be it.
Thank you to our nurses, counselors, and teachers for helping students in the school and talking about how can we take care of ourselves.